Acknowledge that the press and public were duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Please join me in standing for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Father, we thank you for the day, and we thank you for the beauty of it. Thank you for this opportunity to serve this great community. Just pray that you would guide and direct our conversations and decisions made here tonight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Nicole, roll call.
Councilmember Cohen.
Here.
Councilmember Myers.
Here.
Councilmember Streetman.
Here.
Councilmember Bogosian.
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce.
Here.
Councilmember Carroll. Here. Councilmember Miller. Here. Mayor Powell.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. First item is citizens' comments.
Jenna Arsenault.
Hello, my name's Jenna Arsenault, and I came here today to introduce myself. I'm running for the State House here in District 112, and I just wanted to say hi and say I would love to work with everyone in the Isle of Palms and bring some fresh perspective, some fresh leadership to the island. I really believe in listening to the residents and being a really good advocate for people. So I would love to meet individually with any of the council members if you're curious about what I stand for and what I could bring to the island. Thank you so much.
Is that it? Hey, Chief O, since you're standing up, Chief O, a lot of room there. Why don't you just kind of paint the picture for the last hour or so, if you don't mind?
A lot of sirens.
A lot of sirens, a lot of call-outs. Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No problem. So we had a significant power outage in the area. It affected us and our neighboring municipalities. So that created, some challenges. So we had quite a few elevator rescues. I think we had 6 total in Isle of Palms, Wild Dunes area, and then here in our business district. And so we handled that with our automatic and mutual aid partners. We had, Sullivan's Island, City of Charleston, Mount Pleasant, and us. And it looks like hopefully we should have power back within the next hour or
I think
two.
it's on.
So they're working on getting it. So
Thank you. No fire, just false alarm
correct.
stuff.
Yes. No fire. We didn't have any fire. There were just some odors that people were concerned about, and then the elevator rescues with the loss of power and the lag time of the generator, but yeah.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hate to stop all the rumor mill stuff on next door, but maybe that'll do some of it. Chief Cornett, your timing was good. He was standing up and walking in, so all good. Next item is presentation on the fiscal 27 CARTA budget. Andrea, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you doing that. This is in your packet.
Yes, sir. Good evening. My name is Andrea Kozlowski. I'm the Deputy Director of Operations and Support with the VCD Council of Governments in CARTA. I come here pretty much every year. If it's not me, it's Matt, to present to you the CARTA budget. This is FY27's budget. As you're aware, part of CARTA's enabling legislation included the town in the law, so we have to come to you to get your approval of our budget annually. Just to give you a little bit of information, as Mr. Ward knows, he was a huge supporter of the Beach Reach. He serves on the CARTA board. Beach Reach continues this year. It has been highly successful. It's a partnership between the Isle of Palms, Mount Pleasant, and CARTA. We enacted Friday service this year at the request of both Isle of Palms and Mount Pleasant, and it has been wildly successful. We've seen an increase in ridership of about 40% from last year. As you remember, we got a slow start in the very beginning, but now it has caught rapid fire and people are really using it. So we certainly appreciate the partnership with y'all to provide that service to the citizens. In your packet is the budget. I won't go line by line because it's a lot of information, but we provided you with a memo that describes all of the expenditures and revenues and what each line item means. I will also give you just a little bit of information on new things that we've done since last year. We now have tap to pay on the buses, so people can board the buses and not have to use cash at all. We do have the mobile app that they can continue to use with their phones, but they also can just tap a credit card now when they board the bus, which has been very successful. People enjoy it. Those who are able to do it, do it. Saves time with boardings and saves time with us having to count money every day. So Low Country Rapid Transit continues on. We will be building our operations and maintenance facility at the fairgrounds property. We're about 90% complete with the engineering design on that property. We also will be building a new transfer hub on Rivers Avenue that will replace the current Superstop facility. It will house workforce development upstairs, and it will serve as the Cartage major transfer hub downstairs. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Just wanted to give you a few highlights of what's changed since last year.
Thank you. Questions? John or Katie? I want to make sure we don't. You good? All right. Andrew, thank you for prepping and doing that and coming, and we'll vote a little bit later in the meeting.
Okay,
on it.
great.
So, great.
Thank you very much.
Yep, nice to see you. Next item is approval of previous meetings minutes. We have a public hearing on the fiscal 27 budget, June 24th, city council meeting on June 24th, special city council meeting on July 1st, and the citizens' comments are attached. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any edits, changes, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item is procurement. We discussed most of these, or all of these actually, in pretty good detail at Ways and Means, so hopefully we can go through unless anybody has follow-up questions. First one is consideration of bid for trimming of palm trees from Planet Green Tree for $31,200. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item, consideration of purchase of 16 Cradlepoint R1900 mobile routers from T-Mobile. You can see the numbers there for the police department. Is there a motion? Motion to approve.
Second.
Follow-up questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, consideration of purchase of public safety drone with DOT from Axon, $80,754, split annually between fire and police department. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, consideration of applying for South Carolina Border Security Reinforcement Fund grant. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item E, consideration of CSE change order 53,608 beyond the 15,000 we approved at the June 23rd meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Lastly, consideration of proposal for rebranding from Blue Ridge Marketing, $50,150. This is to be reimbursed by Explore Charleston, and just for clarity, it's in the 30% bucket that we are required to send to Explore Charleston, not in our retained A-tax money. Is there a motion? Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Just one
I'm
quick-
sorry,
Yep.
Scott, go ahead.
There was just one quick question. This says, and I think we were trying to clarify who's paying for what and all of this. It says here it's reimbursed by Explore Charleston. Can somebody kind of explain the money flow and how that works and why it works the way it does? And I think the bottom line is that this is coming out of the 30% money. The city's not paying for it. It's coming out of that legislative bucket, but maybe tell us how that all works.
You want me to explain that?
Yeah, as far as the flow,
So-
just,
Yeah.
As the mayor kind of alluded to, this is the money that we are required by state law to send to a DMO. We send it to Explore Charleston. They have agreed at our request to include this as an expenditure from the city, but paid for out of their funds. So it's in their budget. They've presented it to us in their budget. They've acknowledged it and agreed to pay for it. And again, this is money that we've been required to send to them. It has to be used for marketing. It cannot be used for infrastructure or salaries or anything else. It explicitly has to be used for marketing. This is a use that they felt like benefited their mission to support us, and we feel like it mutually benefits the city in providing us more direct marketing.
So this is essentially round trips.
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
Technically, we will get bills, we will pay them from the city's funds, they will then reimburse us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Sorry, I didn't mean to overlook. Thank you, Don.
Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, I think when they presented the budget to the ATAX committee, they had that included
They did.
as a
That's correct.
budgeted item for Isle of Palm specifically.
That's correct. This is actually the second year that they've included this amount. We have been talking about this effort for a number of years, so it is in their budget.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Just for a heads up for our next meeting, those of you that have been around since our original Ways and Means meeting, all this procurement, we are going to put into a consent agenda so that we don't have to hit each one. Council can vote to pull something out of the consent agenda to have further discussion on it, so that's not a problem. But going forward, we'll just do a consent agenda and approve them all at once without having to go through each one. And for residents, all this discussion takes place at Ways and Means, and you can watch those, see those minutes or watch that meeting to get the detailed discussion on each one of these spendings. So I don't want people to think we're flying through it tonight, which we did, but it's pretty good discussion at our past Ways and Means Committee earlier this month. So just heads up for next go-round. Next item, old business, non-new business, discussion of Acme Restaurant request to amend zoning regulations regarding parking. You had some information in your packet. Douglas, I know you included current zoning and ordinances and such, and Bobby is here from Acme for any questions that we may have, but I'll just let you.
Yeah, if you, I think I would kind of summarize what I heard from Bobby at your last meeting as really a request for two different things. One, and I guess the first thing, and these would be dealt with differently in the city's code, but the first thing they would need kind of relief from or some mechanism to manage through is they would like to keep the restaurant operational during construction. They don't physically have room to accommodate parking, plus their old building staying open during the construction process, and also have a construction project on the back half of the property. Construction would be happening in the area that currently has parking in it. So that's one issue that's somewhat can be kind of isolated in the zoning code and dealt with a little bit separately, but that's really the first request. The second request, and I think that they have, at the end of the day, I think it is a reduction. They are asking the city council to consider a reduction in the parking requirement for their establishment in the future. As you know from the packet and the city's code, their future restaurant is really limited in their size at the end of the day by the number of parking spaces that they can provide. When we have a vacant parcel come up, when folks are doing the analysis in terms of what they can fit on a property, that really is that's the methodology that they use. They kind of start with how many parking spaces can I get. The zoning code then drives the number of seats that would be required or that can be supported by that number of parking spaces, and that ultimately drives the size of their future restaurant. Acme has made the case that in the GC2 district, which is really Ocean Boulevard, it's that district that fronts on Ocean Boulevard, there is not a requirement to provide parking. And in fact, it's even a little bit stronger worded than not a requirement. It's actually prohibited. You're prohibited from providing parking on lots that are narrower than 120 linear feet of frontage. The kind of background on that is for each curb cut that's provided to go across the sidewalk, that's first of all a curb cut that traffic would be coming across the sidewalk. So that's generally something you don't want to provide at every business. You don't want to have a sidewalk with a curb cut every 30 or 40 feet because you're interfacing pedestrians with traffic pulling in and out. So that is an old requirement that's specific to Ocean Boulevard, and it's really driven by the fact that there's public parking adjacent to it and a sidewalk that's very busy. So that's more of kind of an urban area parking requirement.
And Douglas, I mean, just from a similarity standpoint, I mean, that would be like a King Street
Yes.
area.
Very
Charleston.
similar to how King Street doesn't, each one of those businesses doesn't have a curb cut because it would be a lot of congestion with the pedestrians and people trying to pull into those spots.
Gotcha.
Right now, the requirement in the city's code is that you provide a space, a parking space for every 4 seats in the restaurant, plus a space for every 3 employees on a shift at a maximum, kind of maximum shift. We've talked roughly through email with Bobby about what that would look like for his site. I think that it's roughly equivalent. By his architectural standard that he provided at your last meeting, it shows 52 parking spaces. Those 52 spaces would allow a restaurant that had 15 employees and 188 seats, I believe it is. So we've had a little bit of dialogue about, if that would work for a future operation, and he's indicated that it wouldn't. That kind of financially, I think it wouldn't make sense to tear down the old building and replace new if at the end of that project, he was only able to get a restaurant that had 188 seats and 15 employees.
And
Those
Douglas,
are my numbers
that's 15 per shift.
per shift. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep, at any one time.
For the busiest shift. It's based on the busiest,
That's correct.
most busy
Yeah,
shift.
That's correct.
Is that at the current capacity or the proposed capacity? That
So
would
that is
require
current-
15.
That is the current requirement. If he were to redevelop the site and he provided 52 spaces, which is what his architect shows that he thinks he can, that basically translates to a future restaurant that's 188 seats and 15 employees. So that would be compliant with the zoning code. There would be no need to change the zoning code if he could live within those limits. Bobby's indicated that it wouldn't be,
The numbers don't work.
the numbers don't work. If he were to do that, it doesn't justify the investment, I think, to build the new restaurant.
And Douglas, what you included in the packet, given your comment on GC2, because it's called out as a separate paragraph in this
That's
code. The one for 4 and the one for 3, that would be for GC1 and GC3, right?
That's correct.
And GC3 is this odd little triangle here, right?
Yep, it's the block.
With Acme, with Seabiscuit, there's a
Office.
office space.
The block bound by Ocean Boulevard, J.C. Long, and Carolina on the back.
Is that- and that's-
kind of behind the post office.
Yeah.
That block is GC.
And that's the only thing on the island is GC3.
That's correct.
And do you mind
Yes.
just a quick history on why
Yes, so
that's
GC
been called out?
GC3 was GC2. Thank you, Joshua. It was zone GC2. What started to happen is residential development began happening in that block. City council at the time, residential development was happening in that block. It also was happening in the way of condos on Ocean Boulevard. City council at the time felt like if something were not to change with the zoning code, that the entire commercial district would transition to basically accommodations. There would be no restaurants, bars, shops, places where residents could shop and get services. It would turn into condos, houses, and places for people to sleep overnight. So council at that time eliminated future condos and future residential development of any type, with the exception of GC3, which allows houses and commercial development. So it's the one district that's mixed in what it will allow. In the rest of the commercial district, there can be no residential development, cannot be condos.
Which is the red or orange on this map.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
So that's really the history of kind of why that, and what had happened was that block was kind of half developed. One developer had purchased it, was in the process of subdividing it, and I think council recognized that project was far enough down a path that it would be unwise to stop it, and maybe impossible to stop it kind of midstream. So that one block was carved out as a bit of a compromise situation with the residential development.
So is all the red that zone that way?
So the red is GC1. What I would call kind of the pink that's touching Ocean Boulevard, that is GC2. That's the district you're actually prohibited from providing parking. What I would call the purple there is GC3. And forgot about City Hall, which is the kind of deeper purple, which is limited commercial that we're on. So I think that it would be useful for council to kind of decide on these issues, and we've talked a little bit internally about how we would solve for this, and I think that the temporary situation, the kind of first scenario we talked about where it was, how do you accommodate two uses at once? I think there's an opportunity, if council is agreeable to it, to utilize the section that allows mixed-use parking arrangements to allow them to park in the large parking lot if council was agreeable to that.
How long do you anticipate this?
I would expect construction to take about a year. Bobby, is that kind of what you're thinking?
That would be the max.
Yeah.
Bobby,
I've never.
hey, Bobby, why don't you come up here? Sorry. We're talking about you like you're not here.
But it would take longer than a year to be.
So do you already have architectural plans, renditions, and all that, or
No,
anything?
that's so expensive to get all that stuff
Yep.
done. And
Even-
if I can get this done, I shouldn't waste the money
Got
to
it.
get that done. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. So, my idea would be if I could use that lot, is I would probably have to get a valet service during that time to take cars over, just so we didn't have tons of people walking, on the streets and everything. I'd rather just have a few people with the valet. That's my idea. The drain during the construction, keeping Acme open while we rebuild or build a new restaurant. So,
And we're talking about the large municipal lot?
Kinda, I guess really the back corner closest to
Yeah.
yes,
Acme.
I would be happy to, whoever I have to work with to pay for that area and everything. So that I think you'd have to have a valet service.
So I guess back to kind of the scenarios, that is the first issue to be solved, and I think there's a solution that we could basically come to terms with the Acme using that large lot or using a portion of that large lot if council was agreeable. Then you have the kind of follow-up issue of Bobby wouldn't be willing to do this unless there was a permanent change made going forward for the parking arrangement for the future restaurant. So that's the kind of second thing that council, I think, would want to consider.
Yeah. Can I ask
would
Bobby
need
a
to
couple
consider.
questions on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So in your email, you said that it sounds like your numbers work at 250? Or they start working at 250?
Yeah, 250 is a great area that leaves me enough area to have seating, regular like 200 to 210, and gives me another area that I can do,
Events or,
yeah, I can have like private parties up to like 50, 60 people or so.
And what capacity are you at right now? What seating,
I
roughly?
110 maybe.
So this will be a double, the triple, or, yeah?
Double,
Okay.
and then in my idea, in my mind, it's not always a 250 seat restaurant. It's, parties are taking over that event space. And even with the parking now, I probably have to direct them when they sign the contract for the rental that they park in the city lot and pay to park there.
You were looking for 100, you were looking for up to 100 spots, correct, to accommodate?
Yes.
Yeah.
And any credit, so the plan I gave you all is like the drain, has 52 spots on it. If it, in the end, all said and done was 49, it'd be great if there was a system that I got credit for 49. Like whatever I provide, I got a credit for. Because I don't want to go back to, when we used to be this, I don't want to ever have in the future a problem where we're no longer here and it causes the city issues with someone wanting to come in and build something stupid.
Good question.
Technical term, Bobby? Yeah. Jimmy?
Bobby, in addition to the parking requirement and everything, is it true that you have a lot of walk-up traffic from the hotels down on the front beach on Ocean Boulevard that park down there?
Traffic.
Right.
It's unreal.
Yeah, they're walking down J.C. Long to come to your place.
I don't think
Staying
we
at Sea
have any
Cabins.
more hotel rooms, but it seems like every year there's more and more people who are coming by foot, so, I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's
Turn them away.
two rows of parking right there next to the post office also.
Yes, which we're fortunate to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, that's city property. Yeah. Well, and that,
No, I was going to say, I think it would be nice to see the restaurant upgraded. I'm just wondering, there are other businesses along that realm that if we do the zoning change, if I were investors in those properties, I might want to do something similar, and we'd have to figure out how to, should we be looking at accommodating the zone and the potential in that zone all at once, as opposed to maybe doing a transactional thing here? And, this seems to me like this is a real job for the planning commission to, get all the details, map out the calendar, do an impact analysis, and see what we can do to figure out a way to make some of this stuff happen. But to me, this is, this is a good discussion, but we really need we need a lot of data and a lot of impact analysis on this.
and Scott, I think I totally agree with you, because if we're making a change, it's not an Acme change,
Exactly.
it's a GC3
Yeah,
change.
exactly.
So, and I think it is I think it is a planning commission issue, and we can easily put things on their agenda for them to take up. So I think, wanted to have this discussion, just to hear from Bobby, have further, if council wasn't of a mind to even go down the path, there's no need to waste planning commission's time, but, so Bev, let me get you in, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to, I'm glad you split out what I call the temporary and the permanent. And it seems like we could come to some kind of good compromise and agreement, if you will, with the lot and in the construction period for your parking. But as for the permanent and the zoning change, I'm having trouble developing policy up here when it really, I think, belongs in the planning, with the planning commission. Certainly council, would have a say in it after planning got through it, but that's where I think, where the rubber meets the road on,
Oh, yeah.
and on,
It's foggy there. I just say we change this little thing right here.
well, and that's where planning
got
can
map
look at
card,
it
map pencil with you?
and look at all what the effect is on the island on doing that, but that's planning commission, not us.
David?
Yeah, I was, the same thing, I was kind of questioning whether the whole temporary one, and again, the city leasing parking for a whatever year, 2-year period, with him under contract, knowing that at the conclusion of that period, he won't have that parking available. I think there's something you can work around that. Going to the follow one, and I agree, this is probably something that should be pushed to planning commission, but again, looking at that table of required parking, it seems, I think that's fairly a generic, I've seen it in other ordinances, and again, when that got put in place, how does that account for parking in the general area? And to me, it's like, could a percentage of his parking be expanded instead of touching the property within a certain distance of the property to accommodate, again, the fact that that area does have public parking, that people could walk, a block or 2 blocks to get to the restaurant. But again, I think so that probably needs to go back to planning commission.
John or Katie, I don't want to miss you if you have a question or comment for Bobby or join the discussion.
No, I don't have any questions. The comment is the same as what's already been mentioned. I do think I support looking at this and trying to find a solution, but it should go to planning commission and let them wrestle with this and come back to us.
Katie?
Yeah, that was everybody's already taken my thunder.
Fair enough.
One last point.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Bobby, is time of the essence? You want to get going on this, right?
Yeah, from the people who did that plan, we do kind of have to get moving on it, even if we want to start construction next fall. Next, like right after Labor Day or so, right when the island slows down. We'd have to shake a leg to get design work done, to get bids done, and to get on, hopefully get on someone's schedule who can start the construction for us. So, we need help to.
You have trouble with contractors, Bobby? It's crazy talk. Bev?
I changed my mind, sorry, I do have a question. When I was reading the Planning Commission minutes, is it intended that it's going to be on the August agenda for planning?
It has
Okay,
been, it's been foreshadowed there,
okay,
kind of anticipating that
okay.
council could, you can on your own volition just kind of wrestle with the issue. It ultimately would come back to you, but it seems like there's consensus to send it to them, and I think they would be expecting that.
Yeah, and Douglas, Scott, you too, having been on planning commission, I've been on the receiving end, of a dictate from council. How do we get the message from us? I guess they can either watch this or you're the liaison there. So, we got speed's an issue. Council's of the mind. Sounds like we want to find a solution. The construction one seems pretty relatively easy. The longer term one, we just need to move quickly to help accommodate. Scott?
I think what would be really helpful, Bobby, is if you can, quantify for the planning commission as much as possible, timing, how long is the duration going to be during this transitional period so they can work out the transition and what the footprint's going to be before and after. Even if you can have a small rendition done of this thing, but it's kind of spend a couple of bucks just to get some elevations and seating to kind of give you an idea. I don't think that's very expensive to do. Anything that you can give the planning commission to quantify the before and after would be then it becomes almost a math equation on where do we put your parking internally, and then for the SAW, that takes up a big part of the footprint within that whole zone, and then they can maybe extrapolate or see what the potential could be for the rest of the zone. So it's just that, I think if you can provide as much detail on what your vision is to make it work for you, then that gives them a real specified target to solve for.
I can always try to see if I can find someone to, a sketch of a restaurant or something. And see.
Well, you got footprint, I think, already on that stuff you gave us, and just even kind of is it, what's the capacity going to be, and what's the capacity during the year going to be? Yeah, that'll help us plan the parking during the course of the year.
I'll go work on that.
Douglas, anything? They give
August.
planning
I
what
think
they
so.
need.
Yeah, I think, sounds like generally the first scenario, council's agreeable to looking in solutions, and I think planning commission would really focus on the kind of long-term zoning change potential.
Well, if they can spend time on both, they may, I remember David and Philip, when we were on planning commission, we would spend a lot of time knocking around 10 different options that we're not going to see up here, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess, just for clarification, the temporary, them using the city's lot, that's already allowed by the code. So that's not a zoning code
That's just
change. That is an agreement that needs to be struck with the property owner, which obviously would be you all. So
Yeah.
that's already an allowed
Doable.
thing that they can come to you and ask.
Gotcha. Bobby, thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
Yeah.
You'll have a good luck with that AC.
And electricity in general. Next item is discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yep. Next is discussion and consideration of the CARTA budget that we just heard. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Further questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item, boards and commissions report. Council committee reports are attached. Board of Zoning Appeals, no meeting in July. Planning Commission minutes are attached. Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee, minutes are attached. Environmental Advisory Committee, minutes are attached. Beach Preservation Committee, minutes are attached. Ordinances, resolutions, and petitions. Tonight, second reading, ordinance 2026-05, an ordinance to create a code of ethics. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second?
Questions, comments, edits, changes? Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to make
Ashley.
a motion. Is it working? Oh, yeah, it's loud. And under the general standards of conduct, Part C, the first sentence be removed, I think by recommendation of Mac and our discussion that we had in our last meeting. So that's just one change I had.
Say, what page are you on? Sorry.
148.
Got it.
So you're making that a motion to remove the first sentence
Part C.
of Part C, under general standards of conduct.
Yes.
Of Part C.
I'll second that.
Questions or comments on that?
Just for clarification, I couldn't really hear the
Yeah,
motion.
so it's
Sorry, my
page
voice,
one, I'll get it,
doesn't-
page 148,
Can't either.
Yeah.
first sentence of subsection C, conduct of members.
Okay.
Supervision, a change?
About being above reproach and
Yeah,
avoiding the appearance of impropriety. I think we talked about last time how those are hard to define, somewhat vague terms.
We have an amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So the original amendment, motion, other comments, questions, any other edits? David, sorry.
I do. I kind of struggled with this one, so I want to say, while I support the idea of an ethics ordinance, I can't see voting on this in its current form. I'll acknowledge that if we pass this in its current form, there'll probably be a lot of support. We might even get a 30-second news clip on the evening news about Isle of Palms passing an ethics ordinance, and there'd be a lot of people that would think of that as a good thing. What concerns me more, though, is the message it sends those people that actually read what it says. And I see the primary purpose of the concept of an ethics ordinance is to build trust with our elected and appointed officials. And trust, in my opinion, is not what we say, but what we actually do. And a significant portion of this 8-page proposed ordinance is basically a repeat of state law. About 2 pages of it just reiterates ethics that are already covered by state law. So we're not adding to it, we're not changing it, and we're not even changing the process, because it actually refers to, if it's a violation of state law, handle it in the same manner we've always have. So there's a huge part of this that is making no change, in my opinion. So for me, creating a law that says follow the law just doesn't make sense, and it just is a lot of window dressing on an ordinance that could be actually written much better. Kind of jump in through here. I think there's like 3 parts to this ordinance. The section that deals with actually ethics violations, and again, we're not doing anything but reiterating that we're going to follow state law. There's a second part, which there's a lot of good stuff in this, which is a code of conduct, but it overuses the word shall for very arbitrary and ambiguous, hard to enforce activities that, what was somebody's intent. It's going to be hard to prove what their intent is, and to say they shall do this instead of should in a lot of places, again, just looks to me like window dressing to make it look like it's more important and we're doing more than we're actually doing. The third part of this, when I look at it, is we're standing up basically a court of law with no actual legal authority to try cases in a bench trial fashion. And when you look at it, you can say, oh, well, that means we're taking the ethics stuff seriously, but we're not, because ethic violations of the state are going to be handled like they always have. So this quasi-court is only going to be put in place to handle issues of improper conduct by a council person or appointee. So to me, going through this huge formal process to try to address issues of dealing with conduct that we should be addressing straightforward in our meetings, and that should not be the starting point of it. So at this time, what I would like to recommend is that we refer this to a special committee to actually go through this, do our due diligence, clean this up, and make it something that we could be proud of.
Someone on the committee would like to address that?
I would, thanks. That's a lot to unpack,
Yes, it
David, but I'm
is.
going to try and unpack it little by little. South Carolina Ethics Act, the ethics laws, do not cover everything that is in here. So that they cover a lot of financial, they cover reporting, but there is a gap. I went through each of the provisions A through, on our conduct, A through O. And I can tell you that the conduct of members, civility, abusive conduct, personal attacks, decorum is not covered in state. Mac, you can correct me on any of this.
Yeah, the State Ethics Act is basically, you don't use your government position to benefit yourself, a family member, or a business you're associated with.
Right.
That's it. It primarily deals with using your position to financially benefit yourself or direct conflicts of interest. But other than that, like, for example, somebody recording an executive session and leaking it or something, that's not covered under the Ethics Act.
Right.
Now, if you got paid to leak it, then it would be covered under the Ethics Act. So anyways, it is somewhat limited in the conduct that it controls.
It is. Under D, the respect for the process, they don't enforce council meeting decorum or Robert's rules. Decisions based on merit, they do not address it. In some, they do, and that's just to me, putting it in there and including it, even though state has it, is kind of a reminder, hey, don't take a gift. That is covered under state law. The distinguishing personal views from official city policy, not covered under state. Council members interfering with directing staff, not covered under state, that's a local provision. The independence of the boards and commissions, there's kind of a crossover of there, but pretty much that's more for local. Positive workplace, again, local. And then the social media, there's some ethics law that is relevant with campaigning and economic benefit, but pretty much it's under local law. So I think, to say that it's totally repeating state, it is not. There is a gap, and I think actually this fills that gap. It does a few things, though. It establishes those clear standards of conduct for us. It is not intended to replace any South Carolina Ethics Act. And that's said in both the recitals and in Section 1369. Nothing in it limits or conflicts with the jurisdiction of the Ethics Commission. The second thing it does is fair and impartial process for reviewing alleged violations. We have the independent hearing officer, and that to me is the most important piece of this, because that protects everybody involved, the complainant, the respondent, the city attorney, and the integrity of the council itself. And the other thing that's really important about this is we're implementing a need that has been previously identified by council. And while I hear you that you not only think it's perfect, you think it's pretty much, we ought to trash it and start all over, I completely disagree with you. I think we need something in place. I think this is a really, really good attempt at a process which is much, much needed and needed now. I hope this ethics ordinance is, I hope it's never used. That's the hope. But I think we can gain public trust by having it here. I think that's an important piece of it, that we are accountable. It shows the accountability, and it tells the public, we're going to do something about this. So
And Bev, we've got two pieces that are attached with this 2026-05 that we'll touch on later, the affidavit and the hearing officers that you
Yes.
mentioned earlier, so we'll
Yes.
touch that later.
Yeah.
Other comments, questions? I know, Mac, you were involved with the committee on this. Let me get other people in the mix here. Katie, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a really good start and a step in the right direction. And I know that we've talked about getting a process in place for this for a while, and I think it does a good job with that process. I appreciate the work that you all have done, and it might not be perfect, but that's why we can always change things in the future. But I think it's a really good start.
Mac, anything you want to add? Because you were involved with the committee, I think, to
I
draft
mean,
this.
I think legally, it's fine, but at this point, it's a policy decision.
Yeah.
Do y'all want to do it or not? I expressed concerns the first time about this potentially being misused or abused for political purposes, but the Ethics Act, the state act gets abused for those same purposes too. So you can't totally avoid that. We tried to put as many guardrails in as we can, but particularly in y'all's line of work, politics seems to find its way into things, and it definitely will in this ordinance at some point.
Mac, how many municipalities would you estimate have some sort of ethics policy in place similar to this?
Buster, can you repeat that? It's hard to hear you.
I'm sorry. I just asked Mac, how many municipalities would he estimate have a code of ethics already in place that's similar to this? Is my
So-
mic not working?
Similar to this, I'd probably only say one of like the 8 that we represent, which would be Kiowa Island, I think. I think a lot of municipalities have what y'all previously have, which is a code of ethics that the members voluntarily sign when they get elected, as opposed to having it as part of their code. But I get why you're doing this. This makes it enforceable and binding on each member that gets elected. You're agreeing to abide by this. But yeah, I'm like Hanahan, for example, has some kind of general language, certainly not as specific as this. Keo is probably the closest thing.
Can you give like an example of how it might be abused or misused in your opinion?
Just, obviously there are time frames on how close you can do it for an election, but let me pull up some of these. 1 second.
I think, Mac, the filing period, you can't do it prior to an election.
70
That's right,
days.
yeah, so that, again, that's a safeguard, but,
Also the affidavit, which we'll see later. When you have to swear.
Yeah, to me, that's a big safeguard. I think that when I saw that part, I felt much more comfortable about it.
Just a couple of these, respect for process is one thing. Let's see here. Members shall practice civility and decorum during public debate. Let's say a member gets fired up, you disagree with that member, you're outside of the time frame. You're not so close to the election, but you're going to make a big deal about it, and your majority is going to gang up on that member to try to influence the vote or the next election. Something like that.
Yeah, very dangerous.
Yeah. Other questions?
Is there a way
Ashley,
to
is that-
clean up that language, or should we modify that language or remove it?
It depends on if y'all want to have something like this where when a member does something, what this does is it allows you to have something that's enforceable. You get an independent hearing officer, and you can censure or reprimand that person. You could do that without this ordinance in place, though. If somebody did something that council as a body wasn't happy with, y'all can call them out publicly. But ultimately, the real accountability comes from the voters on things like this, because you really don't have a whole lot of teeth in terms of enforcement. It's not like you can remove somebody from city council.
Only the governor can do that, correct?
And it's hard to even do that.
Yeah. Jimmy?
Let's talk about the 75-day window, and then someone could file a complaint against another council member within 75 days of an election. But then, what are the safeguards in place, or what is the procedure in place that makes sure that the hearing officer doesn't hear the complaint like 3 days before the election? And then, like you're saying, this thing's very political. And what are the safeguards to keep that from happening? Somebody files with 76 days to go before somebody's up for re-election, and then, what happens after that?
Well, there are pretty specific timeframes in here, but yeah, if they file it so far out that it can be heard and looked into, that
Yeah.
could happen, and the hearing officer could issue recommendations fairly close to an election.
During the election.
That was the concern I expressed when we originally got this. I think we've tried our best to address those concerns, but you just can never remove politics fully from the process.
Bev, then David.
There's politics and everything. So, but I think these safeguards are designed I think it does a good job to have these safeguards. When you brought up, though, Mac, the process, and that's what's missing if you don't have an ordinance and there is no process, then it becomes chaos to me. And you can't, I think the more, the clearer we are on the expectation of our conduct, the clearer, the more we are accountable, and there is a process through an independent hearing officer that there hopefully will be no bias, but that's what takes out that bias. I've heard, oh no, we can have the city attorney do it. I'm not going to use, I'm not using Mac, the city attorney, the office. But the city attorney, could be a witness. I mean, city attorney is for the council. Well, if it's a charge by a council member against another council member or between mayor and council, all of a sudden, the city attorney should be taken out of it because it might be a perception of bias. So that's why when I said before, I think this independent hearing officer really protects that piece of it.
David.
So again, I'm not saying all of it was bad. There are a lot of good and new things that probably need to be in there. When I went through it, and these are my red lines, and I almost ran out of ink going through this, and it's just a lot of little stuff in here, and there's no way I could go point all this out. That's why I kind of thought it should go back for somebody to really take a detailed look, word by word, and how those terms are used. So I'll point out one of the biggest ones that I just can't live with, period, was where it states complaints against members for violations of this code of ethics ordinance shall be filed with the city clerk. And then later on, it says this takes precedence over all other ordinance. So if somebody has a complaint, what we're saying is the proper thing to do is file a complaint with the city clerk, have a independent counsel when a lot of these issues could be addressed just by bringing it up in a meeting and making a request, let's go to executive session. I think somebody's doing something they shouldn't be doing. So that's where I really kind of have the process, and that's why I said you have to read what it actually says, and if somebody is really trying to follow the law, basically what we're going to do is we're going to pass this and not follow the procedures and stuff that are in it, and how does that build trust when we don't even can't even follow the law that we're trying to pass? And that was what I was really getting at in this, is it does need a lot of cleanup. There are a lot of good things in it, like that you pointed out, how council interacts with the employees of the city. Yes, definitely think that needs to be covered. But again, it's all these just little small stuff, and I'll even back up what really kind of just a pet peeve of mine is, if I can find it, one of the first things that stood out to me when I was reading this was in the definition, substantial monetary value means a monetary value of $50 or more. And my first thought was, I thought the state was 500, so I went and looked it up. It is 500 at the state level. We're actually inflicting something more strict in our local one, until I realized that that term is not used anywhere in the document except in the definition. Again, clean up, it's not a big deal, but it sends the wrong message that we didn't do our due diligence and clean this document up. Of course, because I noticed that, I had to search all the other terms. Immediate family member. The only place that's used is in the sentence right before it, and all it does is add somebody that you can claim as dependent on your taxes. We could have just added that to our definition, not break it out as two separate things. So again, that to me is a lot of this stuff just gives appearance that we're trying to put a lot of fluff in it to make it look important. And when you really read it, again, as far as state violations, we don't address any change in what we already do, but we bring up a lot, it brings up a lot of reiterating state laws. Again, we have a city attorney, at least five of the four of us have to actually, appoint him. If we can't put trust in him to be unbiased, then we need to get rid of him. Nothing personal back.
Come back.
And that, what kind of message does that send when we say we can't even trust ourselves to make a good decision? So to me, it's those pieces, and again, a lot of people will think it's an ethics room, all good, but the lack of trust that it enforces in people that already think we're just going to wave our hands, pat ourselves on the back, and go back to business as usual, and we're just going to basically say, yeah, you're right. So that's the end of it for me. I can tell I'm the only one that feels this way.
No, you're not.
Come here. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, you've convinced me, David, that there's work to be done with this code of ethics. I mean, obviously, state law, is going to supersede anything that gets done anyway, but being specific in these 15 items, A through O, or whatever it is, and some of the ambiguity that you point out, and also the possibility of it being subjective rather than objective, gives a big pause as well. And I think the major thing I take away from this, and you keep touching on it, and correct me if I'm misinterpreting you, I don't think this helps build any trust between the 9 members of council. If we stand on these 9 items here without dealing with the problem ourselves, among ourselves. Not to say that we shouldn't have some clear, parameters in here that says, okay, this is something that's not addressed by state law, and we ought to put that in place, and then all of us agree to it, and we add that. But generally speaking, to have a sort of the broad brush approach that we're taking with the general standards of conduct, I'm agreeing with what you're saying. To me, it really should go either back to a committee, or we should take that part of it out of it, vote on the rest of it, which kind of goes along with what the state code of ethics is, and then handle issues that come up within the council ourselves as we should.
Jimmy?
I do have one question. David, are you proposing an amendment, or we need something for rules of order about what to go forward with this piece?
I guess I would propose that we refer it to a special committee.
Not a special committee, back to admin committee where it started. We don't need a special committee, my opinion.
Right, yeah, we don't.
Okay, send it back to admin.
So make a motion or not, let's move on.
Are you going to make a motion?
Oh, I did make a motion to refer it back to committee. I don't think anybody seconded it.
I second.
All those, let's do a show of hands. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nicole, tell me when you're ready. Opposed? Nay?
Nay.
So that motion fails 5-4. So we're back to the original motion of the, and I'll just ask the committee one last time. You've heard some of this comment. Do you want another shot at it, or you all feel comfortable enough? Mac, I'll look at you too, that
I just want to say something. David, you said somebody should go through this line by line. I take exception to that because I have. And the basis of this is from a city with a best practice, and it's been tested. So city attorneys have gone through it, went through admin. Is it perfect? Probably not. But, you know, the legislative process is really, it's sat on the table for a month. We can make amendments to it, or we can, you know, vote it up or down. So I just think it's time to call the question.
Let's do that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You do, hands again, sorry, Nicole. Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Sorry, Nicole, did you?
That's right, it's the same.
So that motion passes 5-4. Next item is ordinance 2026-06, an ordinance to amend remote meeting attendance policy. It's a second reading. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
Second. Ashley, was that a second? Thank you. Questions, comments? Jimmy?
I have an amendment, we'll go down to section 1320.
Hang on.
It's.
Yep.
Okay. It's first paragraph, remote participation may be utilized for reasons including, but not limited to, illness, personal family matters, employment or professional obligations, military service, travel, emergencies, weather events, or other circumstances that make in-person attendance impractical. I'd like to make an amendment and make a motion to strike the word travel, because we talked about this in the admin committee, and that to me means vacation. I think we send a wrong message to the public that voted for us to attend meetings, and where all these other things are reasonable and it's already in place, and I'm totally in favor of it. I think it sends a wrong message when there's no requirement to attend meetings when you're on vacation. It's just like 3 meetings that we're required to be at a month. If we can't commit to that, I'll question how sincere you are about the job. So my motion is to strike the word travel. That's the amendment.
Not hearing a second? So it fell.
No second?
No. Mac, what if we have to go back to an emergency type situation, hurricane, COVID, whatever, God forbid, but do we need language here that, because we may all be remote at some point, like we were before? I know that's under an emergency order, I guess.
That's how we dealt with that in the municipalities
Okay.
I represented, is we passed an emergency ordinance that was essentially in effect, I think, 60 days, and we could continually renew it as needed. But you could go ahead and address a situation like that, but the way.
It's just an oddity, yeah. And Douglas, that's what we did
That is how
during
we-
COVID.
Yes.
Okay. Beth?
I'd like to offer up a friendly amendment, friendly in my mind, anyway, under A. And the idea is that for notification, the notification also be provided to the presiding officer as well as of the committee, as well as the city clerk's office. So my motion would be to insert after provided, so it would read, notice of remote attendance shall be provided to the presiding officer and to the city clerk's office, and on.
Second that.
I thought we had that in place already. I know the times that I've been away and know that I'm going to attend remotely, I send it to Nicole and copy the mayor or whoever the committee chair is.
I don't know that it's been.
I think in practice, Rusty, it might be, but we
It's
probably ought
in
to.
our code somewhere because I follow that.
I think I follow this right.
I think it was by, I think, the presiding officer and approved by the presiding officer. I think there was
Correct.
kind
I
of-
thought in the old language.
I don't have the red line, but it was, kind of gave the impression that it could be disapproved.
So I think we're putting back in what your practice.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's been my practice.
Yeah, but now we're putting it back in.
Okay.
Yeah. Add in. You see, it is a friendly.
Told you it was friendly.
It's all good.
We got an amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So now we've got the original motion for ordinance 2026-06, an ordinance to amend remote meeting attendance policy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Next item, first reading by title only, ordinance 2026-07, an ordinance to regulate new and existing outdoor lighting for residential structures. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve by title only.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Next item is,
There was a correction typo in it that I wanted to point out before.
just
Is-
hand it later.
Okay.
Works. Resolution 2026-04, IOP Connector Run. If you'll make a motion to approve this and waive the reading, that would be grand.
Motion to approve, waive the reading?
Second.
Any questions? This is obviously an annual event. Kerry, I'll read it if you want me to, but
No, he don't.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Do a quick shout out. Carrie and the team did an unbelievable job on the run this weekend.
Okay.
Nice. It's always something, and every weekend it seems like. Under miscellaneous consideration, kind of back to our earlier conversation on 2026-05, consideration of affidavit related to ordinance 2026-05. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Douglas or Mac, you want to just give a little why we need this? I know we
So
touched on
this
it
was
some.
referenced in the ordinance that was discussed and ratified earlier, so this would be the form. It indicates that the form would be approved, a form approved by council, so that's what you would be doing here.
Yeah.
And the same is true for the next
Next.
consideration with the list of attorneys.
You're
Referenced in.
trying to move it along. I get it. I'm with you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, consideration of list of hearing officers as related to ordinance 2026-05. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any further questions, comments on that?
I was going to say, we ran a list using the qualifications through AI, and it picked up like 50 South Carolina lawyers, and we went through that list of lawyers that we know have worked with and we thought
Awesome.
would be good, and selected these 5. There's certainly other lawyers that could certainly be considered, but these were the 5 we just picked quickly from the broader group.
You know.
Thank you, Mac.
Thanks, Mike.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Douglas, capital projects update. A lot going on. I know you're out at the beach today.
Yes, I would just say that the big news is we have sand arriving on our beach. They started yesterday. They've indicated it would take them a few days to get the kinks literally kind of worked out of the pipeline and really start producing at a higher rate, but we were super excited to have them on the island, set up and pumping sand. The other projects don't have a tremendous amount to update, but I would just say the public dock and green space project is receiving a lot of attention right now just because it is on such a tight timeline. We have to get permits in hand fairly quickly to meet that timeline. Those permits require that the plans be done and completed, so we're working with the engineers, the tenants, and Charleston County, who is the permitting agency. So far, that's going well. We think we're still feeling good about meeting our deadlines, but that one's requiring a lot of attention. The other one, obviously, is the Waterway Boulevard path. That, too, is progressing very well. We are still working on a handful of change orders that will be presented at some time in the near future, but that project is progressing well. The other one's happy to answer any questions, but we're moving right along.
Questions for Douglas? Waterway path looks good. Douglas, thank you all for pushing. Next item is lobbyist update. In your packet, you have two updates, one from our federal lobbyists, one from our state lobbyists. Douglas, anything to highlight? There's not really.
Yeah, I would just say that the biggest bit of news for us from both of these is that the PRT's request for $10 million to be included in the state budget has survived both chambers, and that would be good news for our request from the PRT for, I think it was $5.3 million. And we believe that if that if that budget was to pass as written, that would be good news for our request that we submitted last year. So we're excited to see that included in the budget.
Yeah. And the other piece, all the earmarks were pulled out of the proposed budget that's going to go to a separate committee, so who knows what that's going to look like. And we have an additional $1.5 million, I think, in that, and that's some drainage and greenway and walkover, so fingers crossed on that money that'll make its way out at some point. It'd be nice not to really have to pass a budget by June 30. I didn't know there was an option. Anyway.
It was on the state level.
And federal for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Next item, I'll make a motion, we go into executive session to receive legal advice and status updates on pending legal claims pursuant to South Carolina Code Section 30-4-70A2. Upon returning to open session, council may vote on any matter related to executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Off record at 7:10.
Serious.